There are people who break, there are people who bend, and then there are people who stand. In a world ruled by chaos, pressure, noise, and emotional storms, the rarest and most powerful force is composure, the ability to remain unmoved when everything around you demands that you fall apart. To be the rock is not about being cold. It is not about being emotionless. It is about being grounded. It is about becoming the kind of person who remains clear, steady, and centered when others lose themselves. This is the essence of Stoicism. We are not born with this steadiness. It is cultivated, forged through hardship, and refined through discipline. The modern world celebrates expression over regulation, reaction over reflection. But the Stoic chooses a different path, one where peace is not circumstantial but intentional, one where control is not forced outward but maintained inward. Where others seek to fix the world, the Stoic seeks to fortify the self. The Stoics believed that while you cannot control the world, you can always control your response. You cannot choose the waves, but you can become the anchor. You cannot predict the wind, but you can adjust your sails. This video is not a guide to escape pressure. It is a call to rise inside of it. It is a discipline, a practice, a way of being that strengthens your soul until you are no longer easily shaken. You do not have to yell to show strength. You do not have to dominate a room to be powerful. Real strength is silent. Real power is composed. This is what the Stoics knew, and this is what you will learn: to be the rock, unmoved, grounded, calm, strong. To cultivate this way of life is to take responsibility for the one thing you always possess: yourself. And in doing so, you become more than someone who survives adversity. You become someone who steadies others within it. The person who can hold the room together when everyone else falls apart. In the following chapters, we will uncover how to become that rock, to become unshakable, to be the stability in the room that everyone looks to. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The power of stillness in a loud world. In a world addicted to reaction, stillness is rebellion. The Stoic does not respond on impulse. He doesn't rush to speak, doesn't scramble to be heard. He pauses, he observes, he listens, and in that space between stimulus and response, he claims his power. The world will offer you noise, panic, opinions, demands, judgments, but the Stoic's strength is found in silence. Stillness is not inaction. It is deliberate restraint. It is choosing to observe the moment fully before deciding how to meet it. It is not about withdrawing from life, but engaging it more skillfully. Stillness is not the absence of effort. It is the redirection of energy into mastery. Stillness teaches us patience. It allows the dust of emotion to settle so we can see with clarity. When the waters of the soul are agitated, truth cannot reflect off their surface. Stillness is how we come to see ourselves clearly, to understand our thoughts before we act on them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That stillness is not a luxury, it is a discipline. It requires stepping back from the frenzy, resisting the urge to always be doing, responding, asserting. It means protecting your inner sanctuary from the world's noise. It is a decision to reclaim your mental environment. In a world where urgency is praised and busyness is worshipped, to slow down is an act of wisdom. It is how we sharpen our focus. It is how we hear what is true beneath what is loud. It is how we stop mistaking movement for progress and learn to separate distraction from direction. Stillness also expands your capacity. When your mind is calm, you can see multiple angles. You respond with more wisdom, not just speed. A still mind solves problems better. A still heart hears what others miss. Stillness creates space, and in that space, depth. Decisions made from stillness often carry the weight of foresight. They are not driven by panic, but by perspective. When we practice stillness, we don't become less effective. We become more precise. Stillness is the forge of insight. It is what allows discernment to thrive. It is how you begin to hear the deeper questions, the ones your instincts usually drown out. Is this necessary? Is this kind? Is this aligned with who I want to be? To cultivate stillness, begin with breath. When triggered, breathe before speaking. When overwhelmed, breathe before acting. Let your breath be your anchor, returning you to yourself. Journaling in solitude, taking walks without a phone, sitting in silence for 10 minutes, all are practices to sharpen the muscle of stillness. Spend time each day without input. No scrolling, no news, no talking, just still awareness. Sit with your thoughts and observe. You will be tempted to fill the quiet, but do not. That quiet is where self-knowledge grows. You train yourself to be calm when calm is difficult. You train yourself to pause when everything around you screams for reaction. Each pause adds a brick to the foundation of your inner fortress. Each moment of stillness builds a refuge inside you that no noise can shake. Stillness is strength, not passivity. It is where reason overrules impulse. It is where clarity reigns over chaos. It is where your true voice, untainted by pressure, speaks. And in a world that values volume, your quiet certainty becomes power. It is in the pause that your authority is built. It is in the refusal to be rushed that wisdom finds space to operate. Stillness is not absence. It is presence, intensified. It is where you meet yourself before the world meets you. The calm presence that results from stillness is not just an asset, it is a revolution. It is a statement that you refuse to be enslaved by momentum. Learn to pause, learn to hold, learn to listen with your whole mind before you speak with your whole self. Be the rock. Chapter 2. Control the inner, accept the outer. The Stoics taught one of the most liberating truths. You control nothing but your mind. The world will give you storms, betrayal, delay, failure. But your peace was never supposed to depend on those things. What breaks people is not the event, it is their interpretation of the event. A delayed flight does not cause rage. The belief that it should not happen does. A betrayal does not cause bitterness. The belief that I deserved better does. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The wise man understands this. He does not spend his life trying to control the world. He spends it mastering his judgment. He tightens the boundary between stimulus and interpretation. Most people live outside themselves. They are constantly evaluating, expecting, reacting to the outer world. The Stoic flips the script. He turns inward. He says, "What can I control? What judgment can I sharpen? What expectation can I let go of?" To practice this, begin noticing your reactions. When something frustrates you, stop and ask, "What story am I telling myself about this?" Challenge it. Replace it with a perspective rooted in control and acceptance. The Stoic doesn't suppress emotion. He investigates it. He asks, "Is this within my control?" If not, he lets it go. If it is, he acts with calm and purpose. You can become unshakable when your expectations are aligned with reality. Life does not promise fairness. People will not always do right. Delays will happen. Setbacks will interrupt your plans. Misunderstandings will occur. Some days will bring disappointment without warning, without cause, and without remedy. And yet, the Stoic is prepared. He does not walk through life in denial, hoping everything will go as imagined. He does not pray for a path free of obstacles. He accepts that the terrain will be uneven, that the weather will shift, that others will fail to meet him with the same honor he extends. He does not expect smooth paths, but equips himself for the rough ones. He trains for hardship not to become cynical, but to become capable. He rehearses difficulty in his mind, not to invite it, but to shrink its power when it arrives. He visualizes adversity, not to suffer needlessly, but to create a calm familiarity with discomfort. So when hardship knocks, it finds no panic, only preparation. When suffering comes, it finds no surprise, only steadiness. He is composed, not because he is untouched, but because he has trained not to be broken. The untrained mind believes life owes it ease. It builds its plans on the assumption of cooperation from the world, and when that cooperation fails, it collapses into complaint and confusion. The Stoic, on the other hand, knows that life owes nothing. He expects hardship, not because he is pessimistic, but because he is awake. And so he is never outraged when reality fails to meet fantasy. He does not waste time indulging the question, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, he asks, "What is this moment asking of me?" He asks, "What now?" That shift in mindset alone transforms chaos into challenge, and challenge into training. It is the difference between drowning in the storm and learning how to navigate it. When someone fails you, you remember that people are human, that imperfection is part of the deal. When plans collapse, you remind yourself that control is not in the timeline, but in your response. When something breaks, you do not break with it. You remember that all things, possessions, opportunities, relationships, are borrowed from time, not guaranteed by it. This is not cold detachment. It is conscious alignment. Alignment with the way things are, not how you wish they would be. And in that alignment, a quiet and lasting peace begins to take root. This is the kind of peace the world cannot give, and therefore cannot take away. A peace that does not fluctuate with fortune or fade with failure. It comes from seeing clearly, from accepting wholly, from acting wisely. The Stoic prepares not out of fear, but out of reverence for truth. He does not armor his heart to hide it. He fortifies it so it can remain open. He strengthens his soul not to close it, but to keep it upright when gravity pulls hard. He knows that no wave can drown a soul that has already learned how to breathe beneath the surface. He knows that suffering loses its sting when it is not unexpected. That disappointment becomes less paralyzing when it is not shocking, and that peace becomes possible when your expectations are not fantasies, but philosophies. This is not weakness. This is not resignation. This is wisdom, sharpened by awareness and steadied by discipline. The rock does not expect the sea to be calm. It expects the sea to rise. It expects the tide to crash. It expects the winds to howl. But it has made no agreement with the weather. It only made one promise, to stand. And so it does, quietly, firmly, always. Chapter 3. Endure without complaint. Strength is not just about what you carry, it is about how you carry it. The Stoics understood that the true weight of life isn't measured in burdens, but in your posture beneath them. They endured suffering with grace. They did not whine. They did not seek pity. They did not broadcast their pain for approval. They bore their burdens in silence, with dignity and restraint. They saw hardship not as a personal curse, but as a universal invitation to grow. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The Stoic does not resent adversity. He respects it. He knows it is the forge where his character is tested and refined. Every difficulty is a whetstone sharpening his resolve. To carry your weight with grace is to choose how you suffer, not to avoid pain, but to meet it well. Most people suffer twice, once from the pain itself, and again from their resistance to it. Complaining weakens the spirit. It shifts your focus from what you can do to what you wish were different. It magnifies your suffering by repeating it. It steals power and gives it to powerlessness. But when you endure without complaint, you take the weight in your hands and lift it on your own terms. You say, "This pain is real, but it will not define me. I will rise, not because I am untouched by hardship, but because I refuse to let it corrupt me. I will wear this trial like a crown of quiet strength." To live this way, begin with the small discomforts, the long lines, the traffic, the petty inconveniences that tempt you to grumble and lash out. These are not meaningless moments. They are daily chances to train for something greater. Each irritation is an opportunity to practice stillness. Each delay is a test of presence. Every time you choose composure over complaint, you are casting another brick into the foundation of inner strength. Resist the urge to sigh, to curse, to vent. Hold them in silence, not because you're repressing emotion, but because you're reshaping it. Take these moments as spiritual repetitions, reps in patience, reps in poise, reps in strength. The gym for the Stoic is life itself, its chaos, its interruptions, its unexpected turns. Each is a weight lifted by the soul. When larger suffering comes, loss, betrayal, illness, you will not be caught off guard. You will not have to fake composure, because composure will have become your natural state. You will have conditioned your mind to see hardship not as a threat, but as a teacher. You will no longer view trials as detours, but as essential stations along the path of becoming. You will know how to suffer well because you've practiced how to carry discomfort with honor. You will understand that every trial is an invitation to hold yourself upright, to preserve your dignity even when your world is unsteady. And that understanding becomes a shield, not to block out life, but to stand firm within it. Your suffering will not be your downfall, but your discipline. Your posture under pressure will become your quiet proclamation that strength lives here. This does not mean you pretend life is easy. It means you stop demanding that it be. It means you face its difficulty with poise and power. The Stoic does not need the world to be gentle. He trains himself to be strong. He does not waste energy resisting the weight. He uses it to build resilience. He rehearses difficulty not to expect the worst, but to become the best version of himself in its presence. He does not view hardship as a threat to his peace, but as a test of his preparation. He strengthens his posture not for the stage, but for the storm. He does not crumble under strain, but rises slowly, like a mountain out of mist. And in doing so, he becomes the kind of presence that calms others. People gravitate toward those who suffer well, not because they are invincible, but because they radiate dignity in defeat, serenity in sorrow, and a refusal to let circumstances break their character. Their very stillness amid chaos is a message. This too can be borne. Their suffering becomes quiet leadership, their endurance a signal fire to those drowning in their own. In them, others see the possibility of surviving without surrendering. To be a person of endurance is to be a shelter in the storm, a steady voice in chaos, a calm gaze when all eyes are wild. You do not need to rescue the world. You only need to stand tall enough that others remember it's possible. This is how you serve. Not always through intervention, but through example. You become a reference point, a reminder that strength still exists, that resilience is not extinct. You show people how to suffer without bitterness, how to face pain without collapse, how to carry weight without complaint. Your stability becomes something others lean on without needing to ask. You embody what others forget is possible: self-control, grace, and presence in the middle of pain. Even your silence becomes a kind of guidance. When others are loud with grief or confusion, your steady posture becomes a living answer. You lead not with declarations, but with discipline, not with speeches, but with stillness. You teach not by telling others how to endure, but by showing them that it's possible. You walk through the fire and show no hatred in your eyes. You bleed and still build. You grieve and still give. You bear loss without letting it turn you cruel. You become the quiet soul that reminds others what dignity looks like. Not because you don't feel the chaos, but because you've learned how to hold it without collapsing under it. You radiate a sense of peace that others crave because they see in you a kind of inner architecture they wish they had built. You become proof that there is another way to exist, that composure is possible, even under the heaviest burdens, that your peace can remain even when your plans collapse, that your voice can stay steady even when your heart is breaking, that it is possible to be wounded and still walk forward, to be shaken and still speak wisdom, to carry sorrow and still radiate strength. Your life becomes a testament to disciplined living, to soulful clarity. You become a quiet revolution in a world that shouts its pain and crumbles under it. In your presence, people remember what strength looks like, not loud, not arrogant, not unbreakable, but deeply rooted, anchored, grounded. Be that shelter, be the rock. Chapter 4. Detachment without indifference. The Stoic is not cold. He loves, he connects, he gives, but he does not cling. He does not make his peace dependent on what he cannot control. He practices detachment, not to avoid feeling, but to avoid drowning. He does not shut the door to love. He simply refuses to chain his soul to outcomes. To be the rock, you must learn to love without possession, to care without control, to give your heart freely while letting go of your grip on permanence. Detachment means understanding that all things are temporary. People leave, fortunes change, bodies age, time passes. To love deeply while accepting impermanence is the mark of maturity. The Stoic does not armor himself from life, he immerses in it. But he holds a quiet understanding that everything he touches is fleeting. He holds it gently, not tightly. He opens up, fully, but wisely. He says, "This moment is enough. I will not ruin it by fearing its end." He loves as if he might lose. He cherishes as if it might end, because it might. To detach is not to disconnect. It is to engage more presently. When you know something is not yours to own forever, you tend to see it more clearly, appreciate it more honestly, and love it more freely. You stop projecting into the future and instead settle into what is. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. This awareness brings presence. It removes entitlement. It deepens our appreciation for now. It makes our actions kinder, our affections more sincere, and our hearts more awake to reality. To practice this, begin observing your attachments. Ask, do I need this person or thing to be at peace? If the answer is yes, then your peace is conditional, held hostage by uncertainty, and everything external is uncertain. Work to free it. Not by removing love, but by removing fear. Begin shifting your mindset from ownership to stewardship, from control to care. When you are not afraid of loss, your love becomes purer. You do not grasp, you give. You do not demand, you offer. You stop expecting permanence from impermanent things. This is the heart of Stoic detachment. It does not call you to renounce emotion, but to root it in truth. It is not about hardening your heart, but expanding its strength. When you know something may not last, you give it your full attention, your full care, your full presence. You stop rushing through moments. You stop waiting for guarantees. You start living like every embrace might be the last, every sunrise a final blessing, every conversation an unrepeatable gift. And in that space, love becomes sacred. This is how you love like a rock, not by being unmoved, but by being unafraid to lose. Your strength is not in indifference, it is in a deeper kind of caring, the kind that exists without control, the kind that honors without fear, the kind that can let go with grace. You become someone who loves with open hands, someone who gives without strings, someone who walks away when needed without bitterness. And that is strength, not the strength of walls, but the strength of roots. Walls protect by shutting everything out. Roots protect by growing deep, by holding firm, by adapting to the changing seasons without losing themselves. Your love becomes like those roots, firm, quiet, dependable, and alive. You begin to realize that clinging does not preserve love, it suffocates it. You do not need to chain yourself to someone to stay connected. You do not need to control an outcome to remain whole. The Stoic understands that true love is not about possession. It's about presence. It's not about permanence. It's about honor. You do not love to secure a future. You love because your nature is to give, to care, to honor the beauty of now. And when the moment passes, you release it with the same grace you welcomed it. You will suffer loss, but you will not collapse. You will grieve, but you will not be destroyed. You will not bargain with the universe to bring things back, nor curse it when things leave. You will be steady in the face of departure, because you built your center on what cannot be taken from you. You built it on virtue, on clarity, on truth. You understand that everything external is temporary, and so you invest your energy in what is eternal, your principles, your integrity, your response. And when you love from that place, your love becomes a gift, not a transaction, a presence, not a demand, a sanctuary, not a prison. That is Stoic love. That is real detachment. It is not cold. It is not distant. It is deeply present. It does not ask for guarantees, but it gives completely. It does not plead for permanence, but it cherishes fully. You do not armor your heart to avoid pain. You forge it to withstand it. You do not distance yourself from feeling. You train yourself to carry it with grace. And in doing so, you love more wisely, more fully, and more freely than those who cling, demand, and control. This is the posture of the unshakable, not someone who avoids love, but someone who loves so well that even loss cannot break him. The Stoic does not fear endings because he has learned to live within each moment as if it were complete. He does not grasp for more because he knows that enough is a choice. He does not make his joy the hostage of forever. He makes it the companion of now, and in that he is free. In that he is rooted. In that he is the rock. Chapter 5. Emotional discipline is mental strength. Your emotions are not enemies, but neither are they rulers. The Stoic does not seek to kill emotion. He seeks to train it. Emotions are messengers. They are signals, not commands. They arise from deeply human places, your fears, your hopes, your values, and they deserve to be acknowledged, not obeyed blindly. The untrained mind feels anger and lashes out. The trained mind feels anger and inquires, "Why am I angry? Is this anger just? Is it useful?" What would the wise response be? He does not allow emotion to steer the ship. He listens, but he does not surrender the wheel. To master emotions is not to suppress them, it is to lead them. Suppression is avoidance, leadership is transformation. When fear arises, you ask, "Is this protecting me or paralyzing me?" When sadness lingers, you ask, "What is this grief teaching me? What value does it point to?" When joy appears, you savor it, not as entitlement, but as a gift. The Stoic doesn't deny emotion, he interrogates it. He examines its origin, evaluates its purpose, and then channels it toward virtue. Seneca said, "You must live for your mind." This means the mind must lead. The emotions must be guided, not ignored. Most people let their emotions dictate their decisions. They are pulled in every direction by moods, by wounds, by whims. But the Stoic lets reason govern. He welcomes feeling, but he does not become it. He does not confuse an emotional impulse for moral clarity. He knows that a flaring heart without a steady mind leads to chaos, regret, and reactivity. To develop this, keep a daily record. At night, ask yourself, what emotion led me today? Did it serve me well? Could I have responded better? What triggered it, and what did it teach me? This reflection sharpens awareness. It builds a space between the feeling and the action. You begin to see the patterns. You begin to recognize when anger disguises fear, when sadness is a longing for meaning, when joy reveals your truest values. And over time, you gain the ability to choose, not just feel. Emotional mastery is not about becoming robotic. It's about becoming wise. It's about using every emotional spark to light the path forward, not to burn bridges behind you. You become the kind of person who can be furious and still fair, afraid and still courageous, heartbroken and still honorable. You learn to make decisions not in reaction to your inner storm, but in alignment with your highest principles. The rock is not hard because it lacks feeling. It is strong because it channels that feeling into stability. It is firm not because it is numb, but because it has learned to be fluent in emotional language without being drowned by it. It is steady not because it never feels, but because it never lets feeling take the wheel. It listens, it learns, it leads. It accepts that emotions will come and go, but it does not chase or run from them. Instead, it filters them through reason, aligns them with virtue, and moves forward with intention. Emotional discipline is not about extinguishing fire. It is about learning how to burn cleanly, without smoke, without destruction, without distortion. It is about knowing how to use the fire to cook, to forge, to warm, without ever letting it consume the house of your mind. In a world ruled by impulse, the one who governs himself becomes unshakable. When others react, you reflect. When others collapse, you calibrate. When others lash out, you look within. You create distance between stimulus and response, and that space becomes your power. You stop being a puppet of your moods and instead become the craftsman of your character. You begin to live not as a passenger of emotion, but as the captain of conduct. And in that moment, you step out of the role of the victim and into the role of the philosopher, the one who responds with clarity, the one who lives from principle, the wise one, the grounded one, the rock, anchored not in cold detachment, but in sovereign self-command. Chapter 6. Principles over preference. The Stoic does not ask, "What do I feel like doing?" He asks, "What is right to do?" This commitment to principle over preference is what separates the impulsive from the grounded. Emotions will shift, moods will change, but principles are eternal. They are the compass when the fog of feeling rolls in. They are the standard when it would be easier to compromise. To be the rock means standing firm in your values even when it costs you. You do not cheat because it's convenient. You do not lie because it avoids discomfort. You do not betray because your desires shout louder than your conscience. You remain loyal to what is just, what is true, what is honorable. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. When the Stoic errs, he corrects himself. When he fails to meet his standard, he reflects. Not with shame, but with honesty. He realigns. He recommits. The goal is not to never falter, but to never drift so far that you forget where the shore is. To practice this, define your values clearly. Ask yourself, what virtues do I want to embody? Is it courage, temperance, justice, wisdom? Then evaluate your actions by them. When you're tempted to act out of fear or pleasure, pause and ask, does this align with my principles? Let this become your filter, not your mood, not your gain, but your virtue. The rock does not shift with every tide. It is not swayed by every wind. It holds fast to what it is, and by doing so, it defines the terrain around it. It becomes a fixed point in a swirling world, a reference for others who are lost in flux. It does not argue with the current. It simply remains where it is meant to be. It does not seek approval from the waves or adjust its shape for comfort. Its strength lies in its clarity of purpose and commitment to form. The Stoic models this with his life. He does not adjust his values to match convenience. He does not bend to avoid discomfort. He stands in alignment with truth, even when that truth is costly. He recognizes that temporary ease is never worth the price of long-term self-betrayal. To live this way is to live deliberately. It means knowing what you believe, who you are, and what you stand for, and then choosing, moment by moment, to honor that, no matter how strong the pull to abandon it. It is refusing to let urgency redefine what matters. It is remembering that your standards are not seasonal, they are sacred. The person who lives by principle becomes the person others trust when everything else is unstable. His consistency becomes strength for others to lean on. His integrity becomes a quiet force that recalibrates the room. He becomes not just a witness to virtue, but an embodiment of it. Be that kind of person. Let your life be shaped not by pressure, but by principle. Let your decisions reflect who you are, not who the world wants you to become. Let your values shape your reactions, not the mood of the crowd. When others sway, you stay. When others fold, you hold. When noise rises, you remain silent, not out of passivity, but out of power. You do not need to shout your conviction. Your stillness will speak louder. You do not need to prove your strength. Your refusal to be moved will be proof enough. In a time when everyone adjusts to fit the moment, you be the one who holds the line. Be the rock. Chapter 7. Respond, don't react. A Stoic does not explode. He examines. He does not retaliate. He reflects. The ability to respond rather than react is the mark of a disciplined soul. Reacting is easy. It's fast. It's instinctual. Responding requires thought. It demands space. It asks for a moment of pause so that wisdom can enter. When someone insults you, you may feel anger rise. The untrained mind lashes back. The trained mind asks, is this person's opinion more important than my peace? When plans fall apart, the reactive mind spirals. The Stoic mind says, what is within my control now? This difference between reaction and response changes everything. You are not your first thought. You are the space between the thought and what you choose to do with it. That space is sacred. That space is your training ground. It is where philosophy becomes practice. It is where growth begins. Every reaction that is held back, every impulse that is paused, becomes a rep in the gym of self-mastery. That space between stimulus and response is the arena where clarity is chosen over confusion, where principle overrules pressure. In that space, you are free. Free to question the narrative, free to see with fresh eyes, free to choose action that reflects your values rather than your mood. That space is not a delay. It is the doorway to transformation. Most people live on the surface of their impulses. The Stoic dives beneath them, using reflection to sculpt a better response. That single breath between anger and action is where your character is either compromised or confirmed. Begin developing this skill by noticing your triggers. Pay attention to what makes you tense, impatient, defensive. Notice where your patience ends. Extend that edge further each time. Turn your reactions into data. Turn your outbursts into study. Practice pausing for 5 seconds before responding in difficult situations. Count to 5. Breathe deep into your chest. Let the emotion be felt without obeying it. Ask, what would wisdom do? Then speak, then act. Do not rush to defend your ego. Rush to defend your integrity. That shift changes everything. This is not weakness. It is restraint. And restraint is a form of power far greater than brute force. It is the art of holding back not out of fear, but out of deliberate strength. The strongest person in the room is often the quietest, not because he lacks conviction, but because his conviction is already settled. The one who hears everything, feels everything, and yet chooses clarity over chaos is not absent from emotion. He is above its rule. He does not act to be understood. He acts to remain aligned. His inner compass is not shaken by other people's noise. He does not allow his emotions to dictate the terms of his conduct. He governs himself. Even in the most heated moments, he returns to reason. He applies the philosophy not when it's easy, but when it's hardest, when insult flies, when pressure mounts, when pride is tempted. In those crucibles, he is calm. In those tests, he proves his training, and that is the essence of real power. It is not found in how loudly you speak, but in how deeply you think before speaking. It is not seen in how fast you act, but in how rightly you choose to act. It is found in the space between provocation and response, where you decide who you are and how you will be remembered. To govern yourself is to remove the leash of emotional reflex and replace it with conscious command. You choose what you carry forward. You choose what you leave behind. The moment you do that, you rise above the common noise of the world. You stop being another reaction in the crowd and start becoming an anchor in the chaos. You become the one others look to, not because you dominate, but because you don't get dragged. You are not flammable. You are not frantic. You are focused. Be the one who governs himself, the one who slows things down in a fast world, the one who builds peace in a room of pressure, the one who holds still while others shatter, the one who is feared not because he is loud, but because he cannot be moved. Be the one who responds with silence that cuts deeper than argument. Be the one who needs no defense, because he has already chosen dignity. Be the rock. Chapter 8. Prepare for the storm before it arrives. The Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They imagined misfortune not to summon it, but to train for it. They visualized losing what they loved, suffering setbacks, facing illness, even death. Not out of pessimism, but readiness. Because when the storm arrives, the mind prepared is the mind preserved. When you've already faced the worst in thought, you're less shaken when it knocks on your door in reality. To imagine adversity is not to live in fear. It is to become familiar with uncertainty. It is to prepare your posture in advance. The Stoics believed that it is not pain that breaks us, but surprise. When you expect sunshine and receive storm, you panic. But when you anticipate hardship as part of the nature of life, you meet it without losing yourself. The practice of premeditation is not about creating anxiety, it is about replacing naivety with strength. Most people are caught off guard by adversity. They live under the illusion that life should go according to plan. They believe love should last, jobs should be secure, friends should be loyal, and health should be stable. And when reality disagrees, they collapse into confusion. The Stoic sees things as they are, not as he wishes them to be. He prepares his mind to stand firm when fortune shifts. He knows that loss is part of the contract of life. He knows that pain will visit. He does not fear it. He rehearses for it. He greets discomfort like an old acquaintance, not an enemy. This practice is not cold, it is empowering. It allows gratitude to flourish. When you understand that nothing is guaranteed, you cherish it more. You look at your loved ones with fuller attention. You breathe in the ordinary with sacred reverence. You stop taking for granted what could vanish. You become more present, more thankful, more aware. You hold things not with clenched fists, but with open hands. And in that openness, you enjoy them more fully, precisely because you no longer cling. Start this practice by asking yourself in the morning, what difficulties might I face today? Not to be paranoid, but to be prepared. A rude comment, a broken appliance, a missed deadline, a difficult conversation. Prepare mentally. Visualize your response. See yourself responding with calm, with composure, with virtue. In the evening, reflect. What did I endure today, and how did I handle it? Did you stand or stumble? Did you react or respond? These reflections are your blueprint for refinement. You build armor for your mind, not to escape pain, but to endure it with grace. Not to avoid suffering, but to sharpen your strength in the face of it. You are not weak because misfortune visits. You are weak only when you are unready. But when you rehearse the fall, you rise with wisdom. You rehearse the loss, and you love with deeper kindness. You rehearse the hardship, and you carry it not with complaint, but with character. This is how the Stoic prepares, not by avoiding storms, but by walking into them already braced. The rock does not wait for calm seas to feel secure. It readies itself for storms. It stands not because storms do not come, but because it has already decided not to move. And when the storm hits, it is not undone. It does not plead for calm. It embodies calm. It does not break. It endures. Be ready. Be grounded. Be the rock. Chapter 9. Keep your standards high, even when no one is watching. The true test of character is what you do when there is no one to impress, when applause is absent, when credit is unlikely, when there's no audience, no affirmation, and no reward waiting at the end. That's when your values either stand or vanish. The Stoic does not live for validation. He lives by his code. His virtue is not dependent on visibility. It thrives in the unseen hours. Integrity is not a performance, it is a practice, and it shows most in solitude, in the quiet decisions that shape who you are when no one is looking. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter. That is the essence of Stoic virtue, not the outcome, not the recognition, but the action itself. You live rightly because it is right, not because it's rewarded. You hold yourself to a standard not because it's noticed, but because it's yours. Because it defines you. Because when you look in the mirror, you answer only to the part of you that cannot be fooled. It is easy to hold standards when being watched. When others are present, approval and reputation can pressure us into doing the right thing. But it is harder when no one sees. That is where strength is forged. When you keep your word to yourself. When you do the hard thing because your soul demands it, not because someone expects it. When you resist the easy path, even though no one would know you took it. That's where real integrity lives, in the quiet crossroads between who you could be and who you choose to be. Practice this by choosing one small act of integrity daily that no one will notice. Refuse the shortcut. Clean up without being asked. Speak honestly when it would be easier not to. Do the right thing even when the reward is absence. These are the moments that shape your character. They are invisible victories that harden your soul against corruption. These choices are the brickwork of your inner fortress. They add weight to your words, gravity to your presence, and dignity to your path. And you'll find something else. When you act with integrity and silence, your self-respect multiplies. You do not need applause when you have alignment. You do not need praise when your actions match your principles. That private discipline creates public power. People may not know the specifics of what you've done, but they will feel something unshakable in your presence. You will begin to radiate a quiet strength that cannot be imitated, because it was earned in solitude. The rock does not depend on the gaze of others to know its strength. It does not wait for validation to remain steady. It stands whether seen or unseen. It holds its place regardless of who is watching, and so should you. Let your virtue be its own reward. Let your conscience be your witness. Let your code carry you when the crowd disappears. The world needs more people who act rightly, not because someone is watching, but because it is who they are. Be that kind of person. Be the one who chooses discipline without display. Be the one whose integrity survives the silence. Be the one who remains rooted while others perform. Be the rock. Chapter 10. The calm that commands respect. There is something undeniable about someone who stays calm under pressure, a presence that speaks before they say a word, a stillness that makes others settle in their presence. That is not coincidence. That is mastery. It is the quiet weight of someone who has done the inner work. The Stoic cultivates such calm not for attention, but from discipline, from inner order, from strength that is quiet and real. It is not a performance. It is a consequence of thousands of unseen choices, of thousands of battles won against the ego, the impulse, and the need to control. This calm commands respect because it is rare. Most people are consumed by urgency, stress, insecurity. They are reactive, ruled by chaos, easily provoked. But when you walk into a room carrying your peace with you, people notice. They lean in, they adjust their tone, they lower their volume. Why? Because peace has gravity. Calm has weight. It is not loud, but it moves everything around it. People trust you, not because you speak perfectly, but because your energy is stable. They sense that you are not rattled easily. They see that your center is not up for auction. This calm is not fabricated, it is forged. It is built through all the previous chapters: stillness, control, endurance, detachment, emotional discipline, integrity. When these are lived consistently, calm is the fruit. It is not forced, it is not feigned, it is earned. And you cannot fake what must be formed through fire. You cannot mimic what only deep self-command can produce. You are not calm because life is easy. You are calm because you've become the kind of person who no longer needs it to be. And it is powerful. It makes you a leader even in silence. It makes people turn to you in chaos. It builds trust, influence, and presence, not by display, but by depth. The person who doesn't need to rush, who doesn't crumble under pressure, becomes the anchor for those who drift. You become the lighthouse others steer by, not because you chase their attention, but because your stability lights the way. Calm doesn't just protect your peace, it becomes a gift to those around you. So aim not to be impressive, aim to be immovable, aim not to be loud, aim to be anchored, aim not to be heard first, but to be the last one who speaks after the dust settles. Aim to be the one others consult when the noise is too much. That calm within you will speak louder than anything you can say. It will draw others not because of charm, but because of truth. You will not lead with charisma, you will lead with clarity. And the world, hungry for something real, will respond. That is what it means to be the rock, to be the quiet in the storm, the stillness in the noise, the force that moves nothing but holds everything steady. Calm is not emptiness, it is composure. It is the result of inner alignment, of mental order, of spiritual gravity. And when you carry it, you no longer need permission to be respected. You simply are. Be that presence, be that weight, be the calm that commands, not through words, but through what you don't need to say. Be the rock. To live like a rock is to reject passivity and chaos. It is to choose stillness over frenzy, reason over impulse, principle over preference. It is to endure with dignity, love without clinging, and speak with clarity. The world may shake, but you will not. The world may rage, but you will hold. Not because you were born unbreakable, but because you trained to be. This is the path of the Stoic. This is your path now. Be the rock.